x squared equals 64, so we can undo that by taking the square root of x. If we do the square root of one side, we have to do the square root of the other side. And over here, we also have to consider it might be negative, the negative root. So the square root of x squared is x, and we need both the positive and negative root of 64, so that would be 8. So our answer is positive or negative 8. Number 2 also has two answers, but in this case, the symbol means plus or minus 4. So we'll have to figure out what is negative 6 plus 4, and also what is negative 6 minus 4. Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. And if we do keep, change, change here, keep, change, we get plus negative 4, and that simplifies to be negative 10. So x is either equal to positive 2 or negative 10. Number 3 is a little bit tricky because you're probably wondering, the square root of 36 is 6. Do we need to say positive 6 or negative 6? And in this case, unless it's specified out here that we want the negative root or that we want both, we just do the positive root. So this will just be the positive root of 36, which is 6. We need to know that this is a right triangle, so we have to put that detail in there. You might recognize right away that this is a 6, 8, 10 right triangle, so the answer is 10 meters. But we can use the Pythagorean theorem. This would be side A, side B, and side C. So we'd say that 6 squared plus 8 squared, I'll use x since that's what's used here, equals x squared. 36 plus 64 equals x squared. And 36 and 64 add up to be 100, and that's x squared. Take the square root of both sides. And it has to be a positive. To be a distance, it has to be positive. So x will equal 10. The square root of 100 is 10. So there's the proof with the Pythagorean theorem. X equals 10. And number 5 is also a right triangle, so we'll indicate that. This would be side A, and this would be side B and side C, if we're thinking about a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So, but I'll use the value x since it's indicated with an x here, and we'll write that 5 squared. 5 squared plus x squared equals 10 to the second power. So 25, simplifying, plus x squared equals 100. Subtract 25 from both sides. And x squared equals 75. Just take the square root of each side. X will equal the square root of 75. You could leave it that way. If you punched it on the calculator, you would get that x equals 8.66 to the nearest hundredth. So you could use either one. You could leave it at the square root of 75 or write 8.67. To find the length of segment AB, which goes from 4, negative 2 up to 9, 8, we would use the distance formula. So the distance is going to equal the square root of the difference between the x coordinates squared, 9 minus 4 squared, plus the difference between 8 and negative 2 squared. And we'll make this plus positive 2. And simplifying, we get 5 squared. This is 25. I'm just going to do that work here. So 9 minus 4 simplifies to be 5, and 5 to the second power is 4. 8 plus 2 is 10, and 10 to the second power is 25. So we're going to get plus, 8 plus negative 2 is 10, and 10 to the second power is 100. So we're going to get the square root of 125. And when we simplify that, we get approximately 11.18. So you could leave your answer as the square root of 125, or you could punch in on your calculator the square root of 125 about 11.18. We'll use the midpoint formula to find the midpoint of segment AB. It's the average of the x-coordinates. 9 plus 4 to the second power. That'll be the x-coordinate. And the average of the y-coordinates, 8 plus negative 2 divided by 2. 9 plus 4 is 13, divided by 2 is 7.5. And 8 plus negative 2 is 6, and divided by 2 is 3. So the midpoint would be over 7.5 and up 3, right in that area. It's kind of hard to press it, but that's about where it is. Okay, we're going to do a correction here because the average of 9 and 4, the sum of 9 and 4 is 13, and the average when you divide 13 by 2, you get 6.5, not 7.5. So this should be a 6.5. I'm just going to cross it off. I don't think I can erase it at this point, but we'll just make that 6. 6.5, 3. And part of the things you want to do is check, and when you look at it, if you go over 6.5 and up 3, if you go over 6.5 and up 3, you're on the line. If you go over 7.5 and up 3, it's not on the line. So the 7.5, 3 was not a reasonable answer. So we go 6.5, 3 for that one. The following questions are just to try to measure how well we understand what perimeter area, volume, and surface area mean. So which would you use to figure out? If you're calculating how far 5 laps around the gym is, are you figuring out what perimeter is, area, volume, or surface area? This is a distance, a linear distance, so that's going to be perimeter. So just put perimeter on that one. How much milk is in your carton? That's a 3D kind of an idea. 3 dimensions, length, width, height, so that's going to be volume. How much carpet you need to cover your floor? Typically carpet's measured in square yards. And so it's either going to be area or surface area. And since we're finding just the area of one flat surface, we'll call it area. Now you can make a case for one of two answers on number 11. The amount of paint that you need to paint the ceiling and walls of your living room. I'm thinking surface area because there's more than one plane that we're talking about. We're talking about the flat plane of the ceiling and then the different planes that occupy the wall, that the walls occupy. So we'll go surface area. You could make a case just for area, as you could for almost any surface area kind of answer. So we'll say surface area on 11. You might have the answers to 12 and 13 already kind of in your mind and know what they are. How many square inches are in a square foot? If you answer quickly, you would say 12. Don't do that. That wouldn't be right. You can think about a square. That's 1 foot by 1 foot, which is 12 inches by 12 inches. And if you were thinking 12 inches, you're probably already starting to see, oh yeah, it's 12 times 12. 12 inches times 12 inches is 144 square inches. So sometimes it's not quite what you think it is. How many cubic feet are in a cubic yard? Same thing. You probably know it's not 3. So if we have a cubic yard, you can kind of draw a little diagram that would look sort of like this. 3D shape. Bear with that. I know it's not really great. But this is a yard by a yard by 1 yard. And every yard is 3 feet. So instead of 1 times 1 times 1 for 1 cubic yard, you need to do 3 feet times 3 feet times 3 feet. So that would be 27 cubic feet. 27 cubic feet in a cubic yard. The area of a trapezoid is equal to the average of the bases multiplied by the height, and the bases are 16 and 12. The bases are the two parallel sides, so we have to find the average of 16 and 12, which we get by doing 12 plus 16 divided by 2, and multiply that by the height, which is 15. The average of 12 and 16, they're 4 apart, so you could actually say, well, what's 16 minus 12? It's 4, and take half of 4, 2, and either add it to 12 or subtract it from 16, and you get 14, or you could do 12 and 16 make 28, And 28 divided by 2 is 14, so the area will equal 14 times 15. And this is actually meters, so put that in there. So we can kind of see that we get, when we get to 210, it's square meters, which area should be in square units. The formula that we could use to figure out the surface area of a prism, if you have your handout on formulas, you can use double length times width plus double length times height plus double width times height. And you can call any of these measurements length, width, or height, but we'll just say, well, let's let the length be 12. Let the height is pretty obvious that it's going to be 10. And the width is 10. There's two 10s here, which makes it a little bit confusing. But the width and the height are both 10. And then you just plug the numbers in. We're going to go W2 times LW, which is 12 times 10, plus 2 times LH, which again is 1210, plus 2 times WH, which is 10 times 10. 12 times 10, this looks like that's supposed to be times, so I'll put a dot there. 12 times 10 is 120, we double that, we get 240. Simplifying this part. 12 times 10 again is 120, double it, it's another 240. And here 10 times 10 is 100, double 100, and it's 200. 240 plus 240 is 480. And 480 plus 200 is 680, so the surface area is 680, and we're in centimeters, so it's square centimeters. The formula that we want to use to find the volume of the cylinder would be to take the area of the circular base and multiply it by the height, and the area of the circular base is pi r squared. And the height we represent with h. So this is the volume formula, pi r squared times h. And we get square units when we do this, and when we do square units times another units, we get cubic units. So this is good because volume should be in cubic units. We put the numbers in, volume will equal pi 6 squared times 20. And when you enter that on your calculator, it'll look a lot just like you would see this. Pi 6 squared 20, and when you hit equals, you should get the number 2,261.9, and if you round off the next digit, it's a 5, and that'll be, because it's volume, it's always cubic units, square units, one more cubic units. 17 and 18 both refer to the diagram. If you want to figure out the perimeter, you have to know all of the lengths, and there's one missing, it's x. We know that from top to bottom is 20 units, and up this far is 12. So the rest of the way has to be the difference between 20 and 12, this missing distance, which makes it an 8. So x is 8. 8 units, we'll say. And to find the perimeter, just pick a place to start. We'll start here and just go around it. So we would say 12 plus 19 plus 8 plus 6 plus 20 plus 25. And what I like to do is make sure that I've got the right number of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. Then it's a matter of adding them more than one time to make sure you get it right. And after adding it twice and getting the same number both times, I'm pretty sure it's a 90 units. Paul wants to fill a cylinder with water. The base has a radius of 4 centimeters, so you might want to draw a picture of it. 4. And the cylinder is 15 centimeters tall. So you got 15. And what's the volume? We're going to use that volume equals pi r squared times height. So where we see r, we put a 4. Where we see h, put a 15. Then you just punch it in your calculator. And if you enter the data correctly, you should get 753.98 cubic centimeters. And you're going to need that answer to work with the next problem. A milliliter of water is equal to a cubic centimeter of water. Will a 1 liter bottle of water fill Paul's cylinder? And a milliliter is 1,000th of a liter, so it takes 1,000 milliliters to equal 1 liter. And since a milliliter is a cubic centimeter, it also takes 1,000 cubic centimeters to fill a 1 liter container. And Paul has 953.98, so it will not fill it up, at least not to the top. No, won't do it.